Hello, amazing ladies in business. Welcome to the HerStory podcast. I'm your host, Kylie King, the founder of Australian Ladies in Business Initiative. And I am so excited today to be joined by the incredible Nicole Nightingale, who's joining us from the southern suburbs of Adelaide to talk about her business, Let's Play SA Therapeutic Services. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Kylie.
So let's get started for the listeners. Tell me a bit about who you are and what you do.
I am a single mum. I have two fiercely independent, passionate children and a very chaotic miniature schnauzer called Harvey. I live in Adelaide and I run a private therapy business for children.
Beautiful. And with your business for children, what sort of services do you offer?
So I offer child-centered play therapy, primarily, but I also support children as they get older and perhaps play isn't the best thing for them, and we can do normal conventional talk-based therapies, creative-based therapies, narrative therapy, and stuff like that.
So what is narrative therapy, just for someone who's new to all of this?
So narrative therapy, I utilize it a lot with older kids that really need to be given the opportunity to reauthor their own story. And so it helps people to externalize perhaps the problem or the incident that they're having. For example, a kid might come to me and they're struggling a lot with anxiety. And, they can describe that feeling of the anxiety. And I might say to them, "Oh, I wonder if that anxiety has a name and they can name it. Like sometimes kids might call it the purple monster or the black monster. And then I wonder if we can draw what does it look like? And then they can draw it. And then from then on in the process, we reauthor their story by having that purple monster not be them. That purple monster is outside of them. And so it really it disconnects the person from being the one that is the problem. They have a problem, but they are not the problem. And so narrative therapy has been really beneficial for older children to like just retell their story and have more ownership over what it says.
Well, and you mentioned you do play therapy. So how would you describe that? Like play, what's the importance of playing?
Well, the importance of playing is, especially with children, play is their natural language. It's the way all of our kids learn how to do everything as children. It's how they learn to regulate their emotions. It's how they're going to learn how to resolve conflict, problem solve, role play, how they start to form their identity. It even plays a hand in, gross motor and fine motor skill development and how kids learn to skip and jump and somersaults, monkey bars, all that stuff is still play for a child. And so in play therapy, we use toys, and the toys become the words that the child is going to use to tell their story. And again, like narrative therapy, it really works by externalizing the problems. The children are just reenacting, role playing their concerns using the language through the toys. So it's really great for them to develop that emotional, social well being as well through play therapy.
Beautiful. I love that there's more focus on play at the moment. So I homeschool my little girls, and some of the curriculum-based things that we do with our AP, and we've talked about it, is play. Because when they're little, that's the best way, as you mentioned, it's their natural language. It's also a great way for them to learn how to do different things is through play.
Yeah, and I think I get really excited when I hear people talk about, that they're seeing an increase in play because I spend a lot of my time as a small business owner, just me, trying to find time to slip into schools and talk to wellbeing teams, trying to help them set up play spaces for these children because that is the way children learn. Some of the biggest things our kids learn at mainstream school happen at recess and lunch. when they're on the playground with their peers, we still get that literacy, numeracy, communication is still being learnt on the playground, turn taking, collaborative play, all that sort of stuff. Recess and lunch is the best time because they learn it for themselves and they learn it on their own terms, which is really great. So I love hearing people say um, that they see firsthand the benefit of play for kids because it really is so important.
But it was such a natural language when we're a child, and then what happens? Like we sort of lose it, and now as an adult, if you mention play, it's like I don't want to look like an idiot, or I don't want to be seen doing that. But it was such a natural thing that we learnt so much of with school, and then we've sort of now it's gone. Like as an adult, is there still benefits of play?
Oh, definitely. There is absolutely benefits of play, and I work with children and families, and I provide a service called filial therapy, which is where we come together for a set amount of sessions, and my goal is to try to support the parents or the caregivers to learn a bit more about play and to implement it almost like a play therapy program at home. And so it's a beautiful way for parents who, as adults, we do forget how to play like children. And I could talk about that for hours, just the benefits of how we played as kids, the imaginative play. Like, I'm one of six children with five brothers. So I played by myself a lot because my brothers didn't want to play Barbies, and they didn't want to play anything with me, really. And if I played with them, it was always rough and tumble sports. Like, one brother pushed me down the hill on a bike, and I think I lost a fingernail. That was their sort of play, and that didn't suit me. And so I spent a lot of time in our backyard dressing up like Sailor Moon, Wonder Woman, whatever, using the Hills Hoist clothesline and I could fly, all that sort of stuff. That was my play. And then as we get older, we start to be, like you said, aware of like, I probably look a bit silly. My other friends aren't playing with dolls anymore, so I'm not going to play with dolls. Maybe I'm going to spend more time at the shopping center with my friends, going to the movies. Maybe you join team sports or music lessons. So you're still playing, but not in that way that we see our real little kids play. And then as adults, play is totally different. It's sitting around the the table with a glass of wine or, sharing a meal and talking about your life. It's a different type of play, but it doesn't always meet the needs that we have inside. So
Beautiful. So, what motivated you to get started in this industry and to offer these incredible services?
yeah, well, the biggest thing for me was when I was younger, I was the victim of childhood abuse. And so when I was going through my own therapeutic journey, even from like the age of 12, um, I learnt pretty quickly, I didn't want to talk about it. I was already filled with a whole heap of emotions, many of them that I couldn't name. And court appointed therapy came in, and although that therapist was lovely, I can still picture her face, she was still really lovely. I discovered really quickly I don't want to talk, especially don't want to talk to this stranger about all these horrible things. And so I discovered if I bring my family in, my parents and everything, she talked to the parents and didn't talk to me. And so an hour later I got to walk out and be like, whew, I can get on with my life now, ticked the box, right? But I didn't heal. And so that formed the basis of how I struggled throughout the rest of my adolescence and into adulthood. And so when I was starting out as a social worker, I was working in adult mental health. And I just kept seeing like these people were like me that had come from childhoods, adverse childhood experiences, and they had not had developmentally appropriate healing. And I was like, well, how do I close that gap? So I went looking for a modality that would have worked for me as a child. And then I went and did training in that, and that was child-centered play therapy. And what really drew me to it was the autonomy that a child has in the space that they don't get anywhere else in their life. So when a child comes into the room with me, I'll introduce myself and I'll say, You're going to come into the playroom. In the playroom, you can do almost anything you want. But if there's something you can't do, I'm going to let you know. And really, the only time I would be putting a limit is if what they're going to do is unsafe to themselves or to me. And even then, I still acknowledge, because behavior is communication. So that's a huge thing for me. Children are always communicating with us through their behaviors. And so I'll still look at it and say a kid wants to hit me with something. I would say, wow, you're really angry and you really want to hit me right now. I am not for hitting. We can go hit the bop bag. So they still get to acknowledge the feeling, they still get to communicate their need and that behavior, but it's in a more appropriate way. And we can still do that even at home, like with my own kids when they might get dysregulated and they want to throw something. Yep, you're really dysregulated. You want to throw something because you're frustrated, but we don't throw toys. Why don't we go play with the basketball ring? So they still get to throw, they still get to have that frustration, but we're targeting it in a safer way. And that's the only time in a playroom that I would kind of take control away from a child, would just be to keep them safe. But generally, I try to direct it in a way that they still get to keep that control in a safer way.
I love that you noticed that gap through your own experience of having your parents come and talk in the room, because I think we've all felt it at some stage as a child when we've wanted to express something and our parents have come in with their own side of the story or their own interpretation. Of course, in the best way, trying to help, but it's
Yeah.
sort of, through their own filter, so it hasn't really let the child resonate the message that they wanted to get across. So I absolutely love that you putting the control back in, the story back with its author, the child, so that they can communicate what they want to express. And if they don't want to express it, then they're not forced to. It's not coming through someone else, which I think is super important.
I always say play therapy is also a slower modality. And I'm upfront about that with people when they come in with their kids. It is slower because your child gets to work at their own speed. There's no pressure of like, you've got 6 sessions to work on this, and then maybe you might get another 4. It's not like that. It's like, there's like 4 stages in play therapy. And the first one is warm up. And that's just where you allow the kid the time and the space to get to know you as the therapist, but also what's available in the room. And you'll notice they start to pick the things that they can start to tell their story with. And generally in the warm up stage, they pull everything out, everything, because it's exciting. But it's like, I've never been allowed to play with so many toys at one time. And then we go on to the aggressive stage, which is where they start to test your boundaries. How much are you going to let me get away with in this space? And once they do that, they know that they can trust you, and that therapeutic bond has kind of been really formed. And then they move into what we call the regressive stage. And this stage is generally trickier for the parents because that's when the kids will do their most work. It's where they're really starting to bring up things that have been in the background. And generally, when we're prioritizing something, even as adults, if you're so focused on one thing, something else has to give, right? It's like, I've really got to get the kitchen clean, so that means I can't fold that basket of washing until later. And so we see that in our children during the regressive stage, where depending on their age, they might be doing all this work processing something that's happened, and maybe they start having more accidents, or maybe they're not sleeping as well as they were. And that can be really a struggle for parents because they're like, all of a sudden, I brought you here to help with this, and now my child is wetting themselves. But it is just that momentary thing where they're prioritizing so much in one space that the child is, trying to balance all those spinning plates, and one of them has to slow down a bit. And then they move into what we call mastery, which is where they actually come in and they're a bit bored. And you go, okay, they've shared everything they want to share with me and they're doing okay. And that's the really special part when you know that you've kind of done yourself out of a job, which is always my goal as a therapist, to not really have a job anymore, which sounds funny. And then the kids kind of get to move on, but we always communicate it in a way that, you can come back. If something else comes up, you can come back again into the playroom. And so I just really love that, for me, I think to have had this opportunity would have been world changing, life changing. And I specialize in working with children that have had traumatic childhoods, a lot of children that are in care or under the guardianship of the minister. And I do that because my own mum was a child under the guardianship of the minister. And a same thing, if she'd had access to a service like this, her entire life might have been different too.
That's a lot. That can be, what's the best way to put it? That's a lot of energy output, I guess. It must be at times, even though it's very fulfilling, it must be quite, I guess, draining at times, having everything happen and hearing these children's stories. What keeps you motivated to keep doing what you're doing?
What keeps me motivated, one is I do access supervision. It's really important to always have, especially in like sole trader, it can be quite isolating. So I find it really important to have a network. Same as we say as a parent, you got to have a village. I think you still need to have a village in business, which I have as part of the Australian Ladies in Business initiative as well. And then I have a network of social workers that I can go to and access supervision just to make sure I'm covering all my own bases. But the other part, the more personal part of it, I guess, is not losing the reason why I do it, my why. And so finding and reflecting on those little moments, those little victories that go, yes, Nicole, that's why you do this. You start this because you get to see the moment that that child that hasn't spoken for months says their first word again. And you get to help them find that power that they have lost, that someone has taken away. And so if I can keep coming back to my why, then I find that it decreases my burnout. Yeah.
Beautiful. And do you have that why somewhere that you always see? Is it like hidden in a journal somewhere, or is it somewhere loud and proud, or
No, it is loud and proud. It is on my wall in my office. My why is there. Not, I guess not explicit as in like I started this business because I was a
yeah.
childhood victim.
Mhm.
But it's just, a why. It's pictorial as well. There's a frog, because I like frogs. I'm actually wearing a frog today, but you can't see it. But I like frogs because they're symbolic of change and transformation, and they have this power to shed their outer skin to let something go that is making them sick. And so I have a picture of a frog as part of my why, but also just that, to fill the gap, to close the gap. And so when I am having those moments, I can look over at my wall, see my frog, and go, yeah, we're here because we're closing the gap, and keep coming back to the why.
So, as a business owner, what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far during your journey?
Okay. So my biggest challenge in my journey still is me because I am not very good at the back end business side of it. And so that kind of, I really thrive in the direct person centered stuff, face to face stuff. But when I have to do my invoicing, my bookkeeping, answering my emails, reconciling all that stuff, I cannot stand it. um, and that's the part where I go, oh, this sucks. I really don't want to do this anymore. And then it might, start to bank up, and then I'm like, oh, this is the worst. And then I'll see a client and go, whoa, this is amazing. I love my job. And so that's been the biggest challenge, is navigating the back end, and the fact that it is probably more important sometimes than the face to face, because if I don't manage that back end, I can't actually do the face to face work. And I also struggle to charge people. That's been a huge thing for me, is knowing the value of the service I provide and equating it with a monetary amount, because I struggle, which actually happened my very first private practice. I had to close down because it was costing me money to provide therapy, because I just wouldn't charge people. I wouldn't follow them up to get them to pay after they'd forgotten. And so I got to a point, I'm like, it's now actually costing me money to see people because I don't make anyone pay. So
That's a big thing to overcome though. Like that's a big like a mindset block to overcome and then to then make that decision to close the business down and then restart. That's a big challenge to overcome. How are you going with it now though? You're good?
now I have found, there's lots, like I said, that village that's around me that keeps
Mhm.
on reminding me of my value, and that if you don't have a value attached to something, someone doesn't want to invest in it. They need to have an amount that tells them it's worth investing in. And so it was hard. I had to go off and do a lot of work for myself on that and a lot of reflection on that. And I think a huge part of that was imposter syndrome, and really working on that I am not an imposter. This is not fake. I have value in the service that I provide. And then, my supervisor said to me, there are really simple ways we can fix this problem. You can automate your invoicing. And so I went off and got a really cool customer relationship management software. And so it automatically, as soon as we finish a session, it sends the invoice off, it automatically sends reminders. And I use an accounting company called Henry, which is just for sole traders. And they do all my bookkeeping throughout the year. So the invoices go off, payment goes to them, they automatically do my tax, my super, Medicare, all that sort of stuff, and then they deposit the remainder in my account. They do my BAS, they do my end of financial year tax returns. So doing stuff like that has meant I actually don't need to be so personable about that because there's someone else kind of doing that in the background.
Beautiful. That's awesome. And then you can do more of the fun stuff you enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if we flip that, so we've gone from challenge, what would you say so far as a business owner has been your biggest achievement?
Biggest achievement, probably, I think it was working through that, the biggest blockage, the imposter syndrome, um, and really discovering the why and making sure that it was at the basis of what I do. I've won I've won awards and they're fantastic, but my biggest achievement is meeting the why as much as I can every day that I can meet the why.
So if you're willing to share, what would you say is your big, hairy, scary goal for your business?
A big, hairy, scary goal is to hire a virtual assistant or an assistant, to come on board to take some more of that back end stuff off of me so that I can do more face to face, more of the stuff that I do love. And it's hairy and scary because it's hard to let go of some of that control. Because this is my baby and I do care a lot about my business, and the service that I provide. So handing a bit of that over to someone that is not me feels scary.
I can understand that. I went through something similar when I first got a VA to come on board because it is because you spend so much time to like you created the business, you love it, you grow it, you nurture it. It is similar to a baby. It keeps you up at night. Sometimes it whinges at you or it fights back and all of that sort of stuff. It's very similar. So then to say, hey, I'm now going to let someone else care for it or give those responsibilities, you wouldn't do that to anyone with your own children. So then it does, I get that feeling. And for me, I started slow. So if you do end up doing it, I did start very slow where I was like, okay, you can have 5 hours and you can just look after, the Canva because I can't do Canva. Like, well, I can, but it's like 4 hours of Canva. And whereas my VA is like 10 minutes, here you go. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like you just saved me 4 hours. So just starting by handing her off, and then I was like, okay, well, you can do the Canva now. Can you look after this part for me? So it is a
Yeah.
slow process that you can start increasing, but I do get that feeling of, when you first do it. And then also as well from the return on investment, are you then making enough money to pay that VA so that you can keep that person into, to pay for them? while you're still there trying to make money and do other things in your business. So there's a lot to consider when bringing on a VA, but I'd say do it slow, Nicole. Do it slow and it'll be
Yeah,
fine.
I think that's what it'll be. And, my accountant came to me and was really cool in saying to me, your business is actually doing better than you think it is. Like I always sometimes will be like, oh, everything is not going well. I'm not earning enough. Like business isn't bringing enough money in, which isn't the reason why I started the business. But I do worry that I can't cover my overheads to keep going sometimes. And he sat me down and goes, I want you to look at this. And he said, I'm going to show you, you actually really are doing a lot better than you think you are. It is time. You can bring somebody on to do some of this back end stuff that you don't like to do. So it was really cool to hear him reassure me and say, you do. He actually said to me, um, remember last year when I met you, how many clients did you have? And I said, like 8, I think it was at the time. And then this year he said, so just do the math in your head, because obviously he doesn't know who my clients are. And I'm like, and I went, oh, 21. And he said, 21, you've almost tripled your business in 12 months. So just keep that in the back of your mind every time you have that doubt that your business isn't doing as well as you think it is. You've nearly tripled in 12 months. And I was like, wow, okay, so maybe I can. And I think, like you, Canva will probably be the first thing that I hand over
Yes.
because I'm not
Make
good
that
with Canva.
someone.
Yeah, my 12-year-old daughter does a lot of my stuff.
Oh, that's awesome though. That's good that you've got, someone there that can help you with the techie stuff.
Ah,
So
yes,
that's
she's
good.
brilliant. I think it's that generation thing. I'm still old school. I want to handwrite everything. Um, but my eldest daughter, she designed my website. She designed my business cards. She actually named my business as well. And so when I have to do something on social media, I'm like, Charlotte, what do you think? And she'll go, it's too busy. And so then she just takes the laptop and she starts editing the Canvas slide. She goes, what was your goal with this? And I'm like, oh, it was, you know, I'm trying to advertise availability. She goes, yeah, let's change it. And she just does it. And she shows me, I go, wow, yeah, now can you upload that to Facebook and Instagram? So I think it's time to admit that
You've
it's
got a
not my
little
strong.
entrepreneur there.
Oh,
There's your
yeah,
VA there. You'll
definitely.
just have to start paying her and getting her to start her own business in delivering that.
Oh, maybe I could. She definitely would love it.
So if you have a tip, what would be your tip, whether it's business owner tip or in play, what would be a tip that you would share with the listeners, like a taste test before they come and stalk you?
Okay. Okay. A tip would be that, especially if you're someone who struggles with play as an adult, and like I said earlier about my mum, who was a foster kid, she actually had a really unsafe childhood and didn't play at all. And so that meant my childhood, we played a lot by ourselves. Um, and so now for me, it's important. I've learnt the benefits of play and I've learnt the benefit of adults playing with their children. And so if I find someone that is like, I haven't played for a long time or I've never played before, then I would say to them to, like, basically do some play therapy at home. Like book a time with your kid every week to play. So, maybe it's a Wednesday at 4 o'clock. This is playtime. Set aside at least an hour. And for that hour, your child gets to be in control, which is really hard and scary, like we've said. And just let them follow the lead and just maybe reflect back things that you're noticing, like, oh, wow, that they're really happy right now. Try to pick out some of those feelings so that your kid knows that you're actually engaging, and you might look really silly. Um, you know, I do these things with my kids where they get to choose these activities. We've made superhero videos before where I was mummy might with my washing basket over my head. The other night we we were in the lounge room interviewing an elephant who was running a cooking show. And so we turned it into a video, and my daughter, the one that is very creative with Canva and whatnot, she had all these like subtitles and headings, and it was like a proper news bulletin interviewing Mr. Elephant, the celebrity chef. And that was incredible. And all up, that probably took us 3 hours really for something that lasted 60 seconds on the TV. But if you can find more moments like that where you can give your kids the opportunity to play, and I promise you, you will discover some pretty cool things about your kids.
We did a last night, taking on from what we've discussed previously. Last night we did mummy nail salon.
Mm.
So I did book in that time with my kids, even though they're probably sick of me because we homeschool here, but we booked in just a time for play, nothing else. And yeah, last night before bed we did mummy's nail salon. And they all rocked up and told me what they wanted, how they would do it, and all those different types of, discussions you have with your nail tech. So it was good because they were
Yeah,
able to then speak to me by not speaking to me, if that makes sense, because I was just the nail
yeah,
technician. As they shared
yeah,
the way their day
definitely.
was and what they're grateful for and all of that. So I think that's an amazing tip. And I like the fact you've put, because we're all busy mums or we're all busy business owners, but to go, you know what? No, you're actually scheduling that time. It's locked in. It's not.
Yeah,
And generally, if your kids or their kids are anything like my kids, they'll be like, time, it's time. It's playtime now. Let's
exactly.
go. It's
And
like they will keep you accountable.
yeah, and I don't think, sometimes I worry if it communicates to kids that they're only important for that, hour a week. But I don't think that's the case. I think it actually communicates the opposite, that you're prioritizing them because you can see that they have a need. And so therefore, this is something, it's not negotiable. We've locked this in. This is our time to play together because you are so special and so valued by me. And kids thrive on that. Children love being special. And so you'll find in those moments they're going to hold you to it. It's going to be like, it's 3:59, and they're going to be pulling out the toys that they want to play that week. And you might find they even start like pre-setting or pre-planning what they want to do. It'd be like, this week we're going to play doctors, or this week, and look for those little moments because, like I said, behavior's communication, and they're probably going to start telling you things that you weren't aware of. And that's the other beautiful thing about play, that you can kind of get some insight into what our kids are thinking and feeling through play. So you might get a little bit, of a peek behind the curtain of some of the things that are going on for your kids when you play with them too.
Beautiful. What an amazing tip. So, Nicole, where do we stalk you? Where do we come and find you?
Okay, so I am on Facebook and Instagram. Both of them are Let's Play SA Therapeutic Services. And I also have a website as well, which is let's play letsplaysaTherapeuticservices.com.au. If I knew more about websites, I would have a shorter web address, but I don't.
Don't worry, Australian Ladies in Business Initiative, that's its web address. So I think it's good because it's like if they're looking for you, boom, Google will find you. So I think that's absolutely fine. And I've found most people look through what I was reading, they're using ChatGPT now to search for things or Facebook to
Oh,
search for things.
wow.
So they will find you. Yeah, they will find, or ChatGPT might recommend you.
That's AI is definitely not something that my nearly 40-year-old brain is ready to look into.
No, that is fair enough. Well, thank you for joining me today and sharing all your wisdom. I think, so important that we really embrace play more as an adult as well as with our kids. And if we don't have kids, then we should be embracing it more. There's so many benefits to it. So thank you so much for sharing that today and reinforcing that idea. And I look forward to the listeners dropping comments below on how they're going to incorporate more play into their daily lives.
Oh, and can I say one thing as a business owner, as a business tip? Um, I would encourage all our business owners to look at their why and reflect on it and put it up somewhere in your workspace so that you can have that constant reminder too of why you do what you do. And I think it will help you. Sometimes we need to refine our business or restructure our business because it's kind of gotten off center. So if we have our why, then we can always kind of keep that as like that gyroscope that we come back to keep us balanced.
That's a beautiful idea. I like that tip too. So yeah, if you haven't got it somewhere that you're going to see it, even if it's like, as you mentioned, you don't have the whole thing written out, you've got like a symbol of a frog, and even if you've got something there that will remind you, because sometimes it is tough and at the moment with everything going on, with AI coming in and with other things coming in and different things that are affecting, a lot of people are having those moments of why do I keep showing up every day? Why am I doing what I'm doing? So having that why there and prominent can help you keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.